broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Wilms Front Snapshot News Show on this Tuesday, the 30th of June 2026, the end of the financial year. We are live on the Wilms Front YouTube channel. Now, I'm still having some lag with my computer buttons not syncing up with my Rodecaster, so hopefully there's no issues tonight. Obviously, my back is much better thanks to this new chair. I think my next step should be to upgrade my Mac Studio. Maybe I've just got too many devices attached to it and I just need a computer that can handle it better. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. Now, the Albanese government has a spring in its step because it is back in the lead in the primary vote against One Nation in the latest two major opinion polls. So there was first the, again, my buttons are not working. So there was the Redbridge poll, which is headed by Kos Samaras, the former assistant the Victorian State Secretary, and Tony Barrier, former Victorian Assistant Director. So Labor is back in the lead on 30%, One Nation on 29%. But the coalition has actually gone backwards. They have not won back the vote that One Nation lost. They've sunk to 18%. The Greens went up 14% in the week after they helped pass Anthony Albanese's tax increases on capital gains and curtailing negative gearing. And the others, I'm not sure if that includes the new Community Strong Australia Party by Zali Steggall and Allegra Spender. Two-party preferred, so Labor is easily ahead, 54-46 coalition and 56-44 against One Nation. Now, Anthony Albanese is the preferred Prime Minister, 33%, Pauline Hanson 23%, and Taylor 11%. Then there is, of course, the news poll, which had Labor back up to 33% and One Nation at 29%. And the coalition at rock bottom, lowest in news poll history at 17%. Even worse than Susan Ley got in news poll. The Greens at 13% and others at 8%. So two-party preferred, 56-44 to Labor versus the coalition, and 55.5 versus 44.5 Labor versus One Nation. At least my transitions are working. Now, Anthony Albanese, he is back talking about one of his favourite topics, controlling social media, announcing a hardening of his under-16 social media ban. It comes after last week in Parliament. He warned of the manosphere Nazi to anal tearing pipeline.
Receiving in their inbox, not just children, adults as well, of course, can be impacted by this, with Nazi-level propaganda, with calls for violence. We know that, just to name one area that is of concern. chatbots. A second is notify apps. We are seeing as well with some of these algorithms coming through, we're seeing increased presentations in our hospitals of young women who have been choked, strangled. We see anal tearing growing at an extraordinary, horrific rate.
So elbow, or AnAl, as Sam Newman calls him, because if Scott Morrison's name was shortened to ScoMo, then Anthony Albanese's name should be shortened to AnAl. So he's down on anal sex. He might not be invited to next year's Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. But don't tell him about Yumi Stein's Welcome to Sex book, which teaches young people about anal sex aimed at 12 to 15-year-olds. Though a word of advice to young men, going through the front door is a much smoother entry than the back door. Also, I've never heard of this choking trend. Are young men now getting sex advice from Darth Vader? What is wrong with my computer? It's just... keeps on... here we go, here. So yesterday, Anthony Albanese announced that his solution was the doubling of the fines for social media companies for systematic breaches of the under 16 social media ban from 49.5 million Australian dollars to 99 million. The eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman Grant, will be given even more powers. So she'll be able to compel social media companies, age assurance platforms and app stores to produce documents and information to show provide evidence of what they have done to stop under 16s from getting an account. Albanese separately also plans to legislate a digital duty of care that would compel technology companies to identify and mitigate harms across their services. That would be even more power to the eSafety Commissioner. His announcements come after a British medical journal study found the ban had no effect on the amount of time young people are spending on social media, with 68% of children aged 14-15 who responded said they were still using their own social media accounts. I am shocked that the ban hasn't been effective, but the government, whenever they try to ban something, the solution, whether it be social media or alcohol or tobacco, well, in that case, it's taxing it to the point of unaffordability. They just double down, never admit that any of their policies have failed. Part of the justification of the ban, including from Albanese himself, is that he wanted children to spend more time outside. But when children do go outside, say riding dirt bikes at the local park, those same types wave their fists and say, "You're done, kids, make up your mind." The kids can't win, or maybe you just want to complain about the young ones. My opinion has always been that despite everything that's been thrown at them today, including being locked down during COVID, not allowed to socialise with their friends, the kids are all right. And when we hear about youth crime, we know we're only talking about a certain type of youth. But the coalition opposition can't make up its mind about the under 16 social media ban. Well, they voted for it at the end of 2024. They claim the government beefing up the laws confirms their long-standing concerns that the ban was half-baked and deficient, lacking in proper powers for the e-safety commissioner, and gave parents a false sense of security. Just like they can't make up their mind to support the government's curtailing of the growth of the NDIS, with Shadow Minister for the NDIS, Melissa McIntosh, all over the place in media interviews. Her latest brain fart, that's actually what Federal Liberal Party President Tony Abbott called it, for it was a Liberal Party rebrand in an interview with Sky News. She said she was inspired by Sky News' upcoming rebrand to News 24 on July 27th. Though she did admit that she was putting herself out on a limb. She's the only one who has stuck herself on a limb. She said some people think that we're stuck in the past and that our policies need to resonate with Australia of today and the future. She's always been quite daft, Melissa McIntosh, even though she's done quite well to hang on to that far western Sydney seat of Lindsay. I mean, she's only on the front bench because she's one of the few women remaining for the Liberal Party in the lower house. She's part of the Alex Hawke centre-right faction. What's the rebrand going to be? Is it going to be the New Liberals, like how Tony Blair rebranded the British Labour Party to a New Labour in the 1990s, try to make it hip, cool to the young people and women and all of that new demographics? With the polls actually worse now, therefore, as I said earlier, when they're worse for Angus Taylor than when he took over from Susan Ley as Liberal leader. Now, he's asking for time. He said it will take time to turn the vote around and rebuild trust with the Australian voters. The Liberal Party might not have much time left. And then there's the question about what to do about One Nation. Angus says he won't attack One Nation voters, but says they are not ready for government. But his deputy in the House, Andrew Hastie, has declared war on One Nation. So he, in an email to his, supporters, but people on your mailing list are people who just want to hear what you have to say. So he said that Pauline Hanson and James Ashby have made it clear on the public record that they're targeting me and Canning, but they haven't just targeted my seat. They've run a relentless campaign of personal attacks against me online. It's become serious enough that my security at home and lecture at office needs to be upgraded. I explained this to the joint party room this week in Parliament, and my comments were briefed to the media. Yes, I said never surrender to One Nation, and yes, I said that they'd have to take me out of the box before that happens. Here are 4 takeaways for you. One Nation has declared war on me, so they shall have war. I won't be pushed around by One Nation, nor will I bow the knee to them. This is now personal, and they will have to blast me out of Canning. All this talk of preferences from some people in the Liberal Party is premature. It signals weakness. We should only act from a position of strength. If One Nation really wants to make peace, then come to the table, but it will be on our terms. There's plenty of fight left in us. We're firing up the biggest battle since Sir Robert Menzies founded the Liberal Party in 1994. I believe that Liberals can defeat Labor to win the government, take back control of Australia, and build our nation in respected regional power. But if One Nation wants to meet us on the battlefield, then so be it. They should heed Sun Tzu's wisdom to never press their determined foe. 2 years is a long time in politics, and One Nation will be as closely scrutinised. Andrew Hastie one day in Question Time was noted that he had a copy of Sun Tzu's The Art of War as Question Time reading. I don't think that was by accident. Oops, I accidentally brought the book I was reading to Question Time, and it was seen by all the parliamentary cameras. Now, there's a growing list of Andrew Hastie critics asking why is he declaring war on one nation when he should be focusing all his attention on the worst government in our modern history. I guess somebody like him would reply, you can fight a war on two fronts. And now he reiterated, it sounds like one of those movie quotes, this time it's personal. He reiterated that when he was interviewed by Patricia Karvelas on ABC News afternoon briefing. And I have to say that Patricia Karvelas seems to be Andrew Hastie's favourite journalist to talk to at the ABC, because he featured prominently in her Four Corners episode about the future of the Liberal Party.
The people know who the Liberals are. Yes, we're at a low, but I would be very hesitant about walking away from the Liberal Party as a brand. Coca-Cola is a strong brand. People trust it for whatever reason. I don't drink a lot of Coke myself, but the Liberals stand for something, and it's really important that we deliver on policy. That's what people care about. And the people know who the Liberals are. Yes, we're at a low, but I would be very hesitant about walking away from the Liberal Party as a brand. Coca-Cola is a strong brand. People trust it for whatever reason. I don't drink a lot of Coke myself, but the Liberals stand for something, and it's really important that we deliver on policy. That's what people care about, and we've got to diagnose the problems.
Yeah, but if the Coca-Cola tastes like shit now, you're not going to keep buying it. Now, in that same interview, he also attacked Pauline Hanson's call for a monoculture in her National Press Club address, asking, how will you police that? Pauline Hanson throwing out the term monoculture is being blamed for the party's dip, or is a blip in the polls. I noticed even Rukshan Fernando, after embracing the term monoculture, conceded she didn't explain it or define it well and allowed her enemies to define it. Now, Ozpil and other white nationalists are probably blaming Pauline Hanson raising the issue of late-term abortion, claiming that the Australian public and women in particular like to have abortion, and that it's not an issue that Australians want to have a debate on. But in my opinion, I believe Pauline Hanson did the most damage to herself by attacking workers. It was in response to, I think, a question from Channel 7's Mark Riley. She said, workers are lazy, they're always on their phones, and it's too difficult to sack them. It's not 1996, a current affair anymore, Pauline Hanson. Workers' public opinion is strongly in favour of workers, and the overwhelming majority of Australians are workers, and the ACTU, for some reason, decided that they want to campaign for Aboriginal voice again. They are relishing another your rights at work are under attack, and have got ads ready to go of Pauline Hanson bulldozing your rights at work. So Pauline Hanson, she's really got to stop what I call this old boomer style generalizations when it comes to things like that. Now, in her speech to Parliament last week, when they sought to clarify what she meant by monoculture, she said that as well as wanting to ban the burqa, she wanted to defend the rights of Australian women to wear bikinis at the beach. Does that include G-string bikinis? Because what is it? Few businesses have put signs up, like fish and chip shops and that, saying cover up if you're going to come in. But she also said bring back Paul Hogan and Norman Gunston Australian larrikinism. Now, the Australian Financial Review decided to reach out to Paul Hogan, who has lived in Los Angeles for the past 30 years. He said, she's living in the past, obviously. I've always had a very simple rule. What makes a good Australian is wanting to be one. She's a pelican, yeah, outrageous, so racist. It sounds very much like this stupid buffhead over here, Trump. And now I'm not surprised that he had a go at Pauline Hanson, because I already knew he wasn't a Trump fan, even though he and Trump share similar gifts of the gab. Paul Hogan was famous, as is Trump is, for talking off the cuff and just having the audience in raptures, laughing and being entertained. Now, I saw also that Bonds, they hired Abby Chatfield's cuck boyfriend, Adam Hyde, to be its new Bonds ambassador. And I saw somebody post that it's a step down from Robert Irwin. But Robert Irwin he's also woke, as is the rest of the remaining Irwin family. Remember, his lawyers threatened to sue Pauline Hanson for featuring him in one of the Please Explain cartoons. And let's be frank, he probably was in that Bonds campaign is pumping up his abs with a pump, and probably stuffed a sock in his undies. He's going to be hosting the Logies this year. And you might remember the Irwins attacked the Catters for calling for a croc cull. Hogs and the Irwins, and add in the actor who played Daryl Kerrigan in the Castle, Michael Caton. I remember he appeared in the pro carbon tax ad when Julia Gillard was Prime Minister, along with Kate Blanchett. So all of these icons of Australian larrikinism, they're actually all woke, although Husey now seems to have gone from woke to being as mad as hell. So at least he's going in the opposite direction. Of course, there's now the new anti-One Nation Party, Community Strong Australia, which is a party of two so far, with, they're not Teal independents anymore. They're no longer independents, even though they campaigned on being independents, community independents. So Zali Steggall, elected for Warringah in 2019 on Sydney's northern beaches, and then Allegra Spender elected in 2022 for Wentworth in the eastern suburbs, which takes on Bondi. None of the other Teals have joined them so far. Now, they are going to be leaderless, and they're going to have not a formal membership structure. So the Teal volunteers can sign up to be team members of the local MP. I'm not sure how that's going to go with the Australian Electoral Commission. You actually have to be a member of a political party. You can't just create a member of a team. And they've specifically said that they want to provide a an option other than One Nation, which they believe, which is xenophobic and Allegra Spender is eager to talk about her Italian mother, Carla Zampetti, an Italian immigrant. It's as part of claiming that Australia's always been multicultural. And now they did concede that part of the reason that they formed this political party is so they could get around the coming change to donation laws, where independent candidates are capped at $800,000, but candidates attached to political parties, they can spend $800,000 but have access to a $90 million pool from political parties. So that is so they can raise more money, which they claimed that they have to do. And they said they didn't consult with Climate 200 and its founder Simon Holmes of Court, but they did tell Climate 200 of their decision to form a political party. So we'll see if they can convince some of the other Teals, Nicolette Boulay up in Bradfield and Sophie Scamps in, Makilla, and David Pocock, the independent ACT senator, have expressed an interest. But all of this is a distraction from the Prime Minister AnAl tearing us a new one with his tax increases. Now, it wasn't until after the tax increases to capital gains tax and the rollback of negative gearing was it discovered in the legislation, the devil in the detail, the widow's tax. So that is if their grandfathered or grandparented, as Nick McKim, the Green senator, called it, the existing capital gains or capital assets and negatively geared properties. But if one of the grandparents, grandma or grandpa, dies or there's a divorce and it's transferred from co-ownership to individual ownership, then the grandfathering provision is null and void, and they're not allowed to negatively gear anymore. And so Jim Chalmers has said that we'll correct it in future trants of legislation, which proves that this was badly drafted legislation, which clearly they didn't do their due diligence, hastily put together. Because how can you realize that not until you've passed it, that there's this gaping hole in the legislation, which, I mean, do you want to make a divorce or the death of a spouse more painful? Sorry for your loss, but we're going to be whacking you with an extra tax. I mean, the incompetence of this Albanese government knows no bounds. And again, it's only because the Liberal opposition at the moment is, with Melissa McIntosh throwing that grenade in, they don't even, there's debate about whether there should be the Liberal Party.
This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, there was another 60 Minutes Age newspaper expose by Nick McKenzie on Sunday night into corruption on Victoria's big build. The main bit of new information was from a whistleblower who provided leaked business records showing payments to Mick Gatto's consulting firms to ensure a big build site access and union compliance. And now it should be noted that Mick Gatto has denied wrongdoing and challenged authorities to charge him. He was arrested by police in Task Force Hawk earlier this month, but was released without charge. He once said to Nick McKenzie in the last time that he spoke to him that if you don't print the truth, then if I run into you in the street, I probably won't be very nice to you. I'd probably spit in your face. There's probably a few former members of the now dissolved NSN who lost their jobs because of Nick McKenzie's 60 Minutes reporting, who'd probably feel the same way. But where it becomes a even bigger scandal for the Victorian Premier, and before that, Infrastructure Minister Jacinta Allen, is that she received warnings and reports years earlier, but allegedly directed contractors to accommodate CFMEU demands for political reasons. Now, also Nick McKenzie interviewed again one of the authors of a corruption report commissioned by the CFMEU Administrator Geoffrey Watson, SC, who rejected Jacinta Allen's claim in an ABC 7:30 interview a couple of weeks back that he walked back his claim of $15 billion in corruption costs to taxpayers. He stood by that. So Jacinta Allen, again, being misleading in her public remarks. Who would have thought? And now, principal contractors on the Metro Tunnel, they said that CFMEU cost blowouts nearly $200 million on just one phase. Now, Jacinta Allen, her latest excuse is that cost blowouts are due to inflation. Farcical. She has refused to call a royal commission despite calls by former state integrity officials such as IBAC chief Robert Redlich, calling it an unprecedented historic scandal. The former ombudsman Deborah Glass insists that only a royal commission can properly examine the root causes, political decisions, and the full money trail. Now, Jacinta Allen has said that corruption allegations should be reported to police, except Task Force Hawk has confirmed rorting is occurring but falls in what they call a corruption grey area. So they're basically calling on the Labor government to amend the laws so they have crimes that they can arrest and charge officials with. So grey corruption includes things such as unnecessary labour hire, inflated staffing, and organised crime figures adapting models to extract money from contracts. So Jacinta Allen, she is trying to fob as much of this off. So none of in the police's view, this does not meet the threshold for provable criminal offences like fraud, blackmail, or extortion under existing statute. Now, this should be the front page story of the local Melbourne news for the next week. We also had, at the end of last week, the Victorian government's hand-picked Chief Magistrate Lisa Hannon giving bail to one of the ISIS brides who's been charged with keeping a slave. Amazingly, only in Victoria could an accused ISIS terrorist get bail. But instead, what is occupying the front pages this week is a current, for how much longer, Liberal MLC Moira Deeming refusing to apologise to Matthew Guy for claiming he put in some form of a headlock at a Macedonian community event they were both attending earlier this year. So this is what Deeming has initially described to journalists and colleagues. Suddenly I felt like someone smashed me in the base of my skull with a wine bottle, but it was Matthew Guy grabbing me violently in some kind of headlock. Now, if you've seen the CCTV footage, because it's a noisy room, and there's one of Moira Deeming's staffers seated in between Matthew Guy and Moira Deeming, she can't hear what he's saying, and so he leans over. So I think basically to support himself, so he can whisper in her ear. Her claiming this is a violent assault. If you've ever seen Matthew Guy in person like I have, he's a real scrawny looking guy. I don't think he has much physical strength. So it was clearly not a headlock. And then you had Moira Deeming's husband going all Will Smith, saying, as a man, I would never grab a woman by the back of the neck. As a husband, keep your fucking hands off my wife. So there was initial 9 News report on Wednesday evening, and then Chip Legrand in The Age named that it was Moira Deeming who accused Matthew Guy. And then on Thursday evening, Victoria Police said they conducted an investigation into reports of an assault. Following a thorough investigation, have determined that no offence detected. Investigators have engaged with the woman who made the report. Now, Matthew Guy came out on Friday. He said that his reputation was not a political plaything, and that he is owed an apology from Moira Deeming, and also the Premier and the Attorney General, Sonia Kilkenny, because they said these are serious allegations and Jess Wilson needs to answer our questions. And he said this can be done the easy way or the hard way, implying that he will sue, that if an apology is not forthcoming, he might sue Moira Deeming for defamation. And of course, she sued John Prosciutto successfully for defamation over his sloppily put together dossier in the aftermath of the Let Women Speak in March 2023, when Thomas Sewell and the NSN turned up unannounced as well, and that became the dominant on the news rather than what a lot of the women were speaking. It is interesting to note, I will say, that there's only I can see one prominent TERF who is defending Moira Deeming, who is said she's not going to apologise and claims that she's the victim now of pack bullying, is Angie Jones. I haven't heard anything else public from any of the TERFs or women's rights activists defending her. Now, Moira Deeming on Monday, she put out a statement through her Western Australian-based lawyer. If I can get this. See what I'm telling you? This is absolutely driving me insane. Rather than screen share, I'll just read from it. So Moira Deeming claims that she misunderstood the meaning of the term headlock, but maintains she was manhandled by Mr. Guy. And so her lawyer said after the CCTV footage was released to the media, her client was able to view the footage for the first time. She accepts that she misunderstood the technical meaning of the term headlock, but maintains that she used it in good faith to describe what happened. And without attributing motive to the other party, her client maintains from her perspective, this was physical contact, was in the workplace, was unexpected, unwanted, physically painful, and caused her to feel fear and confusion. But it's and also said that it's defamatory to claim that Moira Deeming made a false allegation to police. Now, she's threatening legal action again. Now, Liberal leader Jess Wilson has said that Matthew Guy is owed an apology. Now, it happened on May 23, but according to reports, Moira Deeming didn't report it to Jess Wilson until June the 12th. Then she made the police complaint on June 16. And so she claimed that she had no choice but to go to police because the Liberal Party refused to investigate. But I must say that to say that her complaint was made in good faith without attributing motive to Matthew Guy, what did she want to... By making a complaint to police, don't you want that person to be arrested, charged, and prosecuted? I mean, thank goodness there was CCTV footage which cleared Matthew Guy, which shows that he did not do what Moira Deeming initially alleged, because when a man is wrongly accused of harming a woman, that can have devastating life consequences, especially if it ended up going to a trial. So Moira Deeming claims that she didn't attribute motive to the Matthew Guy. That's what she said in a statement through a lawyer. But then there's this Herald Sun report that says she was blindsided by Jess Wilson taking Matthew Guy's side, and accused the party officials of engaging in public pack bullying. And then she's quoted as saying, "I'm amazed Jess went out and supported him." And she's now claiming that she wanted it made confidential, wanted the matter sorted confidentially and privately. But if the CCTV didn't exist, and then it was Moira Deeming's word against Matthew Guy, and there was a charge, then it would have been out in public. So in lengthy messages circulating around Liberal Party's circles, Miss Deeming told colleagues, "He's one of my documented tormentors, and the pre-selection debacle just goes to show there is likely an ongoing deranged hatred of me. They're willing to do deranged things." Well, I'd assume he meant nothing by it. But her lawyer said she was not attributing motive. We don't even know what he actually whispered. If it was something menacing or threatening, I'm sure Moira Deeming would have mentioned that. Now, the problem for Moira Deeming and the Liberal Party now is that those who defended her against John Pesciuto are now in senior positions at the Liberal Party. Peter Credlin's husband, Brian Loughnane, is the state president. Bev MacArthur is, well, she instigated the leadership change from Brad Batten to Jess Wilson. She was on Sky News the other night saying Jess Wilson is a fantastic leader. So she is standing by Jess Wilson. So the news reports are now that there's likely to be a state executive meeting in 3 to 5 days, which will move to disendorse Moira and possibly expel her for bringing the party into disrepute. And she won't, a defection to One Nation won't be accepted because, according to this Herald Sun report, is that Pauline Hanson is infuriated by Moira Deeming by telling her she would defect when she was disendorsed from the Liberal Party in March, only to accept the Liberal endorsement days later. And why is Moira Deeming wanting to hang on to a career as a Liberal MP if she says that it's pack bullying? Why not just quit? It absolutely makes no sense. But speaking generally now, I mean, I saw Dave Pello say that you shouldn't put your hands on another woman. Well, it seems that in future we must all live in this affirmative consent culture where we're not even allowed to say shake hands with a man or woman without asking for consent first, because remember, a handshake that can be threatening or can sometimes be painful. I mean, what is it? We all remember Mark Latham's yanking handshake of John Howard in the 2004 federal election. I mean, if somebody else could claim that sort of handshake is made them feel threatened or unsafe, or felt like their hand was going to be yanked from their arm. And for men to protect themselves, they are going to have to basically film all of their interactions with women to make sure that if a woman ever makes a allegation against them, they've got documented footage like Matthew Guy was lucky to have that clears them. This sort of Matthew Guy, luckily he's been cleared so quickly. It reminds me of that Simpsons episode, Homer Bad Man, where Homer's accused of sexually harassing the babysitter because he notices that the gummy Venus de Milo is stuck to her pants, so he grabs it. And she says this is sexual harassment, and Homer's life is made a living hell. It's not until groundskeeper Willie comes forward with a tape that clears him completely. The babysitter conceded that she was mistaken. Moira Deeming, she should apologise to Matthew Guy for claiming that initially that Matthew Guy put her in some form of headlock. She clearly misremembered her own recollection, and so she needs to apologize for that.
This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by
This is the face of pure evil, allegedly. So this is a 45-year-old Australian man, Simon Peter Carman. He has been charged with the intentional murder of 17-year-old Thai girl, Tan Chananuk Do Hamalao, nickname Nong Cake, in Pattaya, Thailand, 2 hours south of Bangkok. So Simon Peter Carman was originally from Ballarat, Victoria, had lived most recently in Western Australia, where he had several interactions with police, including a fine for driving without a license and a disorderly behaviour charge that had been dropped. His firearm license was suspended for a year before moving to Thailand, which is been reported as linked to medical issues. He had spine, neck pins, rods from a suspected motorcycle accident in his 20s. Now, I'd been in Thailand for about 8 months. Now, visa-free travel to Thailand for Australians has been reduced from 60 to 30 days because of foreigners being involved in criminal activity. It's unknown how Carman came to be able to stay in Thailand for 8 months. He was staying in a condominium, which is like an apartment unit in the suburb of Jomtin, south of Pattaya. Neighbours described him as quiet, slow, and a loner who kept for himself. And so his rent was around $100 a week. And so CCTV shows him walking hand in hand with, I'll call her by her affectionate nickname, Little Cake, rather than I mispronounce her name because she deserves better than that. He was walking hand in hand with her through the condo lobby around 3:34 a.m. So they went to his room. Police state they agreed to pay for sexual service. So Carman, he alleges, and we only hear his version of events because the victim is dead, so we can't hear her side of the story. So, and so we only get to, well, hear, you know, what he and his explanation. So at first, so he says that he wanted to reduce her fee for sex from 1,000 baht to 500 baht. That's about 20 Australian dollars because she was on her period. So Carmen claims that she threatened him with a knife and he choked her. But he initially told police he was asleep and he didn't know what happened to her. So he's changed his story already. But if you're threatened with a knife and you claim you disarmed her, then why did you choke her to death? I mean, one single just like throw of a petite 17-year-old Thai girl, and we should show, rather than his face, her face on the screen. There she is. So there is as she's known by her nickname there. Non Cake is her nickname. She had a whole life ahead of her, and her father and stepmother have said they are deeply saddened by her killing. So he allegedly placed her body in a black suitcase. She was naked. So if she was already nude, then how did she produce a knife? He kept it in the room for roughly 18 hours. Then later that evening, around 9 p.m., dragged it out, loaded it onto a motorbike scooter, and dumped it near railway tracks 4 kilometres away. Now, it seems that she did try to scratch him. There was blood in the room. He had fingernail scratches on his neck. So he was arrested trying to flee the country at Bangkok's main airport on early June 27. Thankfully, one of her friends reported to local police that she was missing, and Thai police had circulated an alert linking Carmen to the CCTV footage and the missing persons report. So he has changed his story from denying knowledge of the victim to, I don't know what happened, I fell asleep, to admitting that he killed her, but said it was self-defense. But somebody in self-defense wouldn't stuff the naked body in a suitcase and then throw it out on railway tracks like it was a piece of trash. I mean, we were talking about Mick Gatto earlier on. When he killed Andrew Benjamin in self-defense, he called the police immediately. And now he was found not guilty on the grounds of self-defense. If he had acted in self-defense, as he claimed, he should have contacted the police immediately. Now, we saw, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to, it's so wrong that there's so much focus on, because in our local media, because he's an Australian. This isn't the media should know that this isn't a typical case of an Australian behaving badly, banged up abroad. This is an Australian man who I don't know if he knew she was 17, but he was paying a local Thai teenager for sex. And because of a dispute over payment, he's admitted that he killed her. And we need to be focusing on this as an absolutely horrific killing of a Thai girl who, she was apparently only in Nong Cake, was in Pattaya for a short time. Her father and stepmother, they want the death penalty for Carmen, and I agree. If that's what the parents want and that's what the Thai justice system has as the maximum penalty, then that's what he should get. When you're in another country and commit a charge with a heinous crime, you should get the maximum penalty. You shouldn't get out of the maximum penalty just because you're an Australian. We have too many Australians, particularly in Southeast Asia, who, because they believe that they're paid for a holiday, they're entitled to act in the way that they want. I believe that for a Australian or any Westerner who disrespects local norms, there should be a minimum 6 months mandatory prison sentence. There's been too many Aussie dickheads in Southeast Asia, and then you get to the more heinous ones who go over there to rape children. And so this is a foreigner coming into another country and committing the most heinous act. They should be able to deal with him with the maximum penalty with no interference from our government. I was absolutely infuriated when I heard our Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, say to the ABC, she said, in relation to consular assistance, I'm bound by privacy obligations. We provide consular assistance to Australians overseas when required. Nah, fuck him. Why should our government do anything for him? So she said she would speak with her foreign counterpart in Thailand about the matter at the ASEAN meeting in November. I think that the Prime Minister of Thailand should call the Australian ambassador in for a full dressing down, that your men, because it's mainly men, your men need to stop abusing our women and children. So the Department of Foreign Affairs website says it provides consular assistance in the event an Australian was jailed overseas through welfare support. Nah, fuck his welfare. I hope that before he is found guilty and executed, his life is a living hell in the Bangkok Hilton. So it's described as hell on earth. Well, prison is not meant to be a luxury like it seems to be, a luxury resort like it seems to be in some Australian prisons. So it also recommendations for local lawyers ensuring basic needs are met. No, he should be left to rot. It does warn it cannot help Australians out of local laws and penalties, including the death penalty. The government can provide financial help to cover the cost of legal fees if the accused is facing the death penalty. That just made my blood boil. How tone deaf could you be, Penny Wong? Imagine if he'd fled to Perth. Would Penny Wong fight his extradition, let him be a free man in Perth, because if he was extradited to Thailand, he'd be facing the death penalty? Are you actively going to plead for mercy for him? There'd be plenty of Australians, me included, because I do intend to go back to Thailand. I would be willing to, I think they do lethal injection, but metaphorically, I would be willing, along with thousands of other Australians, to flick the switch myself. I mean, we are quite rightly outraged when foreigners commit heinous crimes here in Australia, and the local Thai people, the Thai government, Thai people have a right to be outraged, angry, and unlike our own government and judicial system here, the Thai government and judiciary, they'll make sure that he is severely punished because, and even though Thailand is it has this reputation for Western men going over to pay for sex, it is actually street prostitution, brothels are illegal over there. And there have been talks of reforms. I don't think there will be now, but it's a form of, I would say, neo-colonialism. It's not just Thailand; it's Vietnam, the Philippines. It's white Western men going over to these countries to abuse women and children. I think Southeast Asian nations have a right to demand from our government and other Western governments, you need to do more, and we should have more cooperation. Because this is, like I said, it makes you absolutely ashamed to be Australian. And as I mentioned before, you hear so many stories about Australians behaving badly in Southeast Asia that you wonder whether, if you're checking into a hotel in Thailand, if they hear you're Australian, they're going to have this look on their face. Though the British think that they're the worst behaved tourists in Southeast Asia. There's a British man accused of throwing acid on I think a hostel worker. Absolutely disgusting. There's so much entitlement that because they seem to think that because they come in with lots more money, that entitles them to treat the locals like trash. It is absolutely appalling and a shame on our nation, I would say.
This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled. This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
I am so sick of this. Everything not working here. And now, on the 4th of July, it will be happy 250 years to Uncle Sam. Now, America's journey begins not at European settlement, but in 1776 with the Declaration of Independence, the War for Independence. And this is outside the White House. Donald Trump has hanged a gold American bald eagle there. And obviously, he's already had the big UFC fight out the front of the White House lawn for his birthday. And and you've seen that the far left Antifa, because it's not like they liked America anyway, but because they want to sabotage Trump's overseeing of 250 years of the United States of America. They've been polluting the reflective pool at the National Mall, so they can cause embarrassment. This is how. Not only the far left, not only do they engage in domestic terrorism, so thankfully several Antifa have got 80-year sentences for opening fire on an ICE official in Texas. But they'll also do just petty vandalism like this, defacing federal property. Now, we are expecting a Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship, which it's interesting that the Supreme Court, there's no fencing around the Supreme Court like there was during Roe versus Wade. So maybe the decision will be to that anchor babies can continue to be born. And now he did lose a Supreme Court decision 5-4 on mail-in ballots. Now, mail-in ballots can be accepted after election day if they are postmarked the day before the election. Does it have to be an official postmark from the post office, or can it just be written on? And also, although he does have executive authority to fire federal positions, he can't do it without due process. He was trying to fire a Federal Reserve governor, but that's been put on hold. Now, in between, the Switzerland, US, it actually occurred in Pakistan, not Switzerland. The first round of negotiations between the US and Iran. The next lot is going to be in Qatar, but in between there, the Iran's Revolutionary Guard attacked a vessel in the Strait of Hormuz, which was going through the Oman passage through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran reckons that it's memorandum of understanding that ships need to go through their part. So it attacked a Singapore flagged cargo and a Panama flagged oil tanker. So Iran basically wants to, even though it's the Strait of Hormuz goes through Oman as well, they want to claim it as their sovereign, even though international waterways, again, I don't like to quote international law, maritime law, but international waters, you can't charge tolls. And now, of course, so it looked like the ceasefire again was in tatters, because then the US responded, but talks are back on. So, but of course, the neocons, and I saw Andrew Bolt attacking the deal. It's certainly worse than one that got worse than the one that Obama got, which shows that, as I've said previously, Trump, he foolishly allowed Netanyahu talk him into attacking Iran regime change, claiming to him that it would be easy when it was anything but. And thankfully, oil prices have subsided. And even with Albanese increasing petrol prices by 16 cents tomorrow from July 1, with the fuel excise, I saw it down to $1.49 near me. So much for the petrocalypse. I've got a full tank already, so I'm all good. But yeah, again, Iran, it's really, it has overdealt its hand as much as the United States has as well.
This is Wilms Front, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, gods save the king. It's no longer God save the king. King Charles has unilaterally changed his royal title. So he he is now so according to a Buckingham Palace, His Majesty is the Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. So this is updated from his previous title under Head of Nation duties under Head of Church of England and Defender of the Faith. So the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is no longer a Christian country. And now this should be no surprise to those who've known Charles's politics throughout the years. His charity as the Prince of Wales, the Prince's Trust, basically was dedicated to helping non-Indigenous British youths. And you should have seen his statement last year about the 20th anniversary of the London Underground Tube Islamic terrorist attacks. I'll tell you what, back here in Australia, the Republican movement just got a massive boost. I am a Republican, but I consider it a lost cause. But the only way that Australia or Britain would become a republic, for that matter, if the monarch interfered in domestic politics or betrayed his peoples. And this is pretty close to a betrayal. Now, the defender, also I should, before I move on, for those who think this is just a blip under King Charles, even though Prince William, the heir to the throne, has a better reputation, he is just as woke as his father and his younger brother Harry. So the continued wokeness of the House of Windsor will continue under King William and King Louis, because you can imagine William and Kate are indoctrinating their three children, including Louis, into all of their causes. I remember, I think Prince William said, it was years ago now, that he wouldn't care if Louis was gay. Then how's an heir going to be produced? I guess they'd have to go to Charlotte's children then, because then she'd be next in line to her children will be next in line to the throne in that situation there. But defender of the multi faith nation, that includes Sikhism, and of course we had the Sikh murderer Vikram Digwa, who, murdering Henry Novak in cold blood, tried to weaponize his Sikh religion, non-white skin color, to try and convince police that he hadn't stabbed and murdered Henry, and claimed that Henry had pulled his turban off. We have more police body cam footage now, which he continues. This is when it's, well, at long last, the police seem to start to finally doubt his story after handcuffing a bleeding Henry Novak. He handcuffed him while he was dying on the ground, saying, "I can't breathe, I've been stabbed."
Pushed my turban off my head, started grabbing my uncle's hair, so I'm a Sikh. obviously, and he started grabbing on my hair, started dragging me around, and obviously from there, then obviously altercations happened. My brothers then seen it, stopped it, and that's when he then started stumbling around, started climbing around all these sort of bits and bobs and stuff like that. So literally, I saw him from there, from the get-go, from there. I saw, look, mate, you clearly are obviously drunk. I said to him, carry on with your day. He said that, and then he started just escalating the situation for me and all this sort of stuff. And this isn't the first time we've had something like this happen here. You can turn the flashes off, sorry.
We can't, I'm afraid.
Is it alright if we move over here then, so it's not too much in my eyesight? So this is when he was got me in the face a fair few good times as well.
Where do you live, sir? Okay. So you've had an altercation with this guy?
Yeah.
Do you know how he's got that wound then? How's he got that wound?
What wound, sorry?
Well, you said he's got blood on him. How's he?
It must have been when we punched him, but he did fall over here, so he was climbing all over these bins and stuff like that. And then he fell over and then landed onto that car.
Starting sure what's gone on here. I've gone 9 for attempt murder with the gentleman that I've run through. Have we got a van at all that I can get him down to Central? Okay, and we'll get it all sorted, all right? I'm not saying you've done anything, mate, but we need to find out what's happened, okay?
Mate, I've been raised.
I know. Okay. I know. But we don't know what's going on, mate. He's...
Pushed my turban off my head, started grabbing my uncle's hair, so on the seat. Obviously,
You saw the police officer at the end say, I'm not saying you've done anything, mate. And you have to remember that even though you can tell that the police are starting to not believe him as much, they still wanted to put out a statement, the local Hampshire police, still saying it was an altercation and trying to claim that Henry Novak was imply that Henry Novak was an aggressor. Now, I told you another heinous example of two-tier Britain last week, that 3-year-old boy thrown into a crocodile enclosure by a 30-year-old man with learning difficulties who was on a visit with a group home with 2 carers with lanyards who were on their phones 10 meters behind him. There are reports that carers tried to bundle the man into a car and tried to drive him away, and staff at the Johnson's Zoo had to stop them driving away. Now, again, I've heard apologists for this man and the carers saying, well, they were trying to get him away from this traumatizing site because that would trigger him even further. Again, making it all about him when he was going to be charged with attempted murder, but was amazingly bailed by police, probably in the care of the same carers who tried to basically escape from the scene. What about the boy, the victim? The public have a right to be safe from a man with learning difficulties who is capable of something like this. And it shouldn't be, they shouldn't lump all of these learning difficulties people together, because there's plenty of people with learning difficulties or autism who are not a threat to anyone out in the community and are more likely to be a victim of a crime, like I mentioned before, Stephen Ogilvie, who was almost beheaded by that Sudanese immigrant. But the disability lobby, they seem to lump all of them together, and it's like, oh, we have to have care in the community. Well, the community have the right to be safe. We still don't know whether he had a history of, but this just shows the mentality of whoever institution the carers belong to, that their mind was more on the man who is alleged to have thrown this 3-year-old boy, who thankfully he was rescued by Tracy Johnson, the zookeeper. The boy is recovering from a fractured pelvis and a broken arm. But like I said, the public have a right to be safe, and thankfully nothing more happened to the boy. And also that the crocodile enclosure is reopened because it was secure. The man literally would have had to have him over his head and throw him down, which is just absolutely heinous. So there's only it's not the boy's fault. It is not the zoo's fault. It is, well, if the man himself is not responsible, it's the care institution that thought it was a good idea to bring this man to a zoo. It doesn't just have crocodiles, but lions as well. And now it has been reported that this 30-year-old man was white, and as were the two carers as well. That brings us to the end of another Wilms Front Snapshot show. Thank you so much for your company once again. Apologies for, again, techno fails. If you want to help me upgrade my computer, then please consider taking out a subscription over on the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. Or you can take out a premium membership over the unshackled.net/membership. And also remember that I'm a contributor over at Reality Check Radio, fortnightly on its breakfast program with Paul Brennan. And also they have launched an Australian newsletter called biteme.news. If it lets me share this now. So you can get that in your inbox every morning, Monday to Friday, with a lot of news that you won't get from the mainstream media. Now, I'll be back same time, the following Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time. A happy start of the new financial year tomorrow. The Albanese government is claiming that some tax cuts will come into effect, but they'll also, well, they're already increasing the fuel excise, but they'll increase other excises and hidden fees and charges and just continue to rip us off further. You've got about 2 hours left now to get some end of financial year deals. So I'll see you in the next financial year. And please, everyone, try to stay positive because we're living in interesting times. And yeah, we'll just see what the news is next week. Good night, everybody.
This is Will. Thanks for tuning in to Wilms Front. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows. And to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.